The escalating tensions in the Middle East, an event that has sent shockwaves across the globe, an operation so audacious, so far-reaching, that it redraws the map of regional conflict. We're talking about Israel's Operation Rising Lion, an attack on Iran that is being described as unprecedented, a move vastly more extensive and ambitious than anything that has come before, including the limited missile and drone exchanges that punctuated their rivalry last year. For the Islamic Republic of Iran, this is not merely a retaliatory strike. It is the biggest assault on its sovereign territory since the harrowing Iran-Iraq War of 1980 to 1988, a conflict that scarred a generation and defined a nation's resolve. In the darkest hours before dawn, when the world slept, the Israeli Air Force launched its meticulously planned assault. This wasn't a surgical strike targeting a single facility. The scope was breathtaking. Israeli jets, operating with audacious precision, targeted not just sites intrinsically linked to Iran's controversial nuclear program, the very heart of international concern, but also, crucially, the country's extensive air defenses. Furthermore, ballistic missile bases, long considered Iran's primary deterrent, were systematically targeted. The clear objective: to severely degrade and effectively cripple Iran's ability to retaliate, to strike back with the kind of overwhelming force that has long been anticipated in a full-scale confrontation. Yet, the air assault was only one facet of this multi-pronged operation. On the ground, deep within the shadows, the legendary network of operatives working for Mossad, Israel's overseas intelligence agency, reportedly played a critical, chilling role. Their intricate web of human intelligence and technological prowess is said to have helped pinpoint the exact location of key figures within both Iran's sprawling military command and its elite corps of nuclear scientists. This level of penetration, if confirmed, speaks volumes about the intelligence capabilities and the audacity of the Israeli state. The casualty list, as it began to trickle in through unofficial channels, was devastating for Tehran. Among those reportedly killed overnight were the very pillars of Iran's security establishment, the head of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC, the guardians of the Islamic Revolution that famously overthrew the Shah's regime in 1979 and have since been the ideological bedrock of the Islamic Republic. Alongside him, in a truly stunning blow, the head of Iran's mainstream armed forces, the traditional military, was also reportedly eliminated. And to compound the damage, the head of the IRGC Air Force, a crucial component of Iran's defensive and offensive capabilities, was also reported among the dead. Iran's state media, in initial, terse announcements, later confirmed that at least 6 of its top nuclear scientists had been killed in targeted strikes. Once again, Israel's spy agency, Mossad, has seemingly demonstrated its unnerving ability to penetrate the very heart of Iran's security establishment. This act alone sends a powerful message designed to erode confidence and instill fear that no one within Iran's most protected circles is truly safe. This bold assertion of reach and capability raises uncomfortable questions about the vulnerabilities of even the most tightly controlled states. Iran's state TV, in its initial, albeit unofficial, reports, stated that 78 people were killed in the overnight attacks. Crucially, they also claimed that civilians, including innocent children, were among the dead, a deeply unsettling detail that, while unverified, immediately sparked international condemnation and humanitarian concerns. Perhaps one of the most astonishing claims emerging from the intelligence community is that Mossad was reportedly able to launch drones from inside Iran as part of this highly coordinated attack. If true, this indicates an extraordinary level of preparation, prepositioning of assets, and local intelligence gathering. The primary physical targets of this entire operation have been identified as the highly sensitive nuclear enrichment facility at Natanz, a cornerstone of Iran's nuclear program, and various key bases belonging to the IRGC, the ideological army that wields immense power in Iran. For Israeli military planners and successive governments, this operation, with its strategic depth and audacious execution, has clearly been a long time coming. Iran is currently reeling from the sheer scale and audacity of Operation Rising Lion. Early assessments suggest this may be only the first wave of a sustained campaign. There will, undoubtedly, be many more potential targets on Israel's extensive hit list, though some may remain tantalizingly beyond its reach. Facilities buried deep underground in reinforced bases, protected by solid rock, designed precisely to withstand such onslaughts. The coming days and weeks will reveal the true extent of the damage and the subsequent stages of this unprecedented conflict. So, what exactly has led to this massive, unprovoked attack by Israel, and why choose now for such a dramatic escalation? The core of this enduring conflict revolves around Iran's nuclear program. Israel, alongside several influential Western countries, has long harbored profound suspicions that Iran has been secretly, meticulously working towards what is chillingly referred to as breakout capability. This term signifies the critical point of no return in developing a viable nuclear weapon, the stage where the scientific and technical hurdles have been overcome and only a political decision stands between a nation and atomic armament. Iran, for its part, has vehemently and consistently denied these accusations. Tehran has always insisted that its civil nuclear program, which has, notably, received technical assistance from countries like Russia, is for entirely peaceful purposes, generating electricity, medical isotopes, and agricultural applications. This fundamental disagreement over the intent and scope of Iran's nuclear activities has been the primary driver of regional instability for decades. For more than a decade, Israel has pursued a multifaceted strategy, with varying degrees of success, to slow down and set back Iran's nuclear progress. These efforts have ranged from diplomatic pressure and international sanctions to covert actions and targeted assassinations. The shadows of this undeclared war have often stretched across the Middle East. Iranian scientists involved in the nuclear program have been mysteriously assassinated by unknown assailants, their deaths leaving a chilling message. One of the most high-profile and audacious incidents occurred in 2020, when the military head of Iran's nuclear program, Brigadier General Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, was killed by a remote-controlled machine gun on a lonely road near Tehran. This brazen act, widely attributed to Israeli intelligence, demonstrated a remarkable technological sophistication and an unnerving reach into Iran's most sensitive areas. Before that, in a testament to the evolving nature of warfare, U.S. and Israeli cyber sleuths were able to insert a devastating computer virus, codenamed Stuxnet, into Iran's centrifuges, the critical machines used for enriching uranium. This sophisticated malware caused the centrifuges to spin wildly out of control, damaging thousands of them and significantly setting back Iran's enrichment efforts. These covert actions, while effective in delaying the program, underscore the depth of the proxy war and the lengths to which adversaries are willing to go to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. The timing of Operation Rising Lion is particularly critical. The Middle East remains a tinderbox, perpetually on the brink of wider conflict. The recent Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, the ongoing proxy skirmishes in Syria and Iraq, and the persistent Israeli-Palestinian conflict all contribute to an already volatile mix. Israel's decision to launch such an extensive attack now, despite the potential for massive regional destabilization, signals a profound shift in its strategic calculus. It suggests that Jerusalem felt it had exhausted all other options, or that Iran's nuclear program had reached a critical threshold, demanding immediate and drastic intervention. International reactions have been swift, diverse, and predictably fractured. The United States, a key ally of Israel, the U.S. has been caught in a delicate balance. While reiterating its unwavering commitment to Israel's security and its stance against Iran acquiring nuclear weapons, Washington has also consistently advocated for diplomatic solutions and de-escalation. Initial statements from the White House condemned the violence and called for restraint from all parties, carefully avoiding explicit endorsement or condemnation of the Israeli operation. However, behind the scenes, frantic diplomatic efforts would undoubtedly be underway to contain the crisis and prevent it from spiraling into a regional conflagration that could drag in American forces. The U.S. has always maintained that a nuclear Iran is unacceptable, but an open-ended war in the Middle East is equally undesirable. European powers, UK, France, Germany, European nations, deeply invested in regional stability and the future of the Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, expressed grave concern. While condemning any actions that violate international law and lead to loss of civilian lives, their focus would be on reviving diplomatic channels and preventing an all-out war that could disrupt global energy supplies and trigger a refugee crisis. They would likely call for an emergency UN Security Council meeting and push for a return to negotiations, however distant that prospect may seem. Russia and China. These powers, increasingly aligned with Iran on various geopolitical fronts, would vehemently condemn the Israeli attack as an act of aggression and a violation of Iranian sovereignty. They would likely use their positions on the UN Security Council to block any resolutions that are perceived as hostile to Iran or supportive of Israel's actions. Russia, a key military and nuclear partner for Iran, might increase its support to Tehran, potentially providing more advanced air defense systems or other military aid. China, a major buyer of Iranian oil, would be concerned about disruptions to energy markets and would advocate for a swift return to stability, albeit from a pro-Iranian stance. Regional Arab states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc. The response from Sunni Arab states, many of whom share Israel's concerns about Iran's regional influence and nuclear ambitions, would be complex. Publicly, they might issue cautious statements calling for calm. Privately, some might feel a sense of quiet relief that Iran's capabilities have been degraded, seeing it as a check on Tehran's power. However, they would also fear being drawn into a wider conflict, particularly if their own territories become targets of Iranian retaliation. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE have been pursuing de-escalation with Iran recently, and this attack would severely test those nascent diplomatic efforts. Iran's allies/proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi militias, these groups, ideologically aligned and often directly supported by Iran, would almost certainly vow retaliation. Hezbollah in Lebanon, with its significant missile arsenal, would be under immense pressure to respond, potentially opening a new front on Israel's northern border. The Houthis in Yemen might escalate their attacks on Red Sea shipping, while Iranian-backed militias in Iraq could target U.S. forces or interests. The risk of a multi-front regional war would dramatically increase. The immediate aftermath of Operation Rising Lion would be characterized by chaos, uncertainty, and a desperate scramble for information. Iran's initial response would likely involve an intricate mix of military countermeasures, propaganda, and diplomatic outrage. Iran's response options. 1. Direct retaliation. Tehran would face immense pressure to respond militarily, both internally and from its regional allies. This could involve ballistic missile strikes against Israeli targets, cyber attacks, or a concerted effort to activate its network of proxy forces across the region. However, given the claimed degradation of its air defenses and missile bases, the effectiveness of such a direct response would be severely limited, and Iran would risk further devastating Israeli strikes. 2. Covert/proxy retaliation. A more likely scenario, at least initially, would be a reliance on its well-established network of proxies. Hezbollah, with its significant missile capabilities, could launch barrages into Israel. Houthi rebels might intensify Red Sea attacks. Iraqi militias could target U.S. bases. This allows Iran to inflict damage without directly exposing its sovereign territory to further devastating Israeli assaults. 3. Accelerated nuclear program. Paradoxically, a severe attack on its nuclear facilities might push Iran to accelerate its nuclear program, viewing a nuclear weapon as the ultimate deterrent against future strikes. This would be a dangerous gamble, risking even harsher international sanctions and potential preemptive strikes. 4. Diplomatic offensive. Iran would launch a massive diplomatic offensive, condemning Israel's aggression at the United Nations and other international forums, seeking to rally support from non-aligned nations and sympathetic powers. They would highlight civilian casualties to garner international sympathy. Long-term implications. 1. Regional destabilization. The most immediate and profound implication is widespread regional destabilization. The delicate balance of power, already precarious, would be shattered. Proxy conflicts would intensify, and the risk of miscalculation leading to an all-out war involving multiple state and non-state actors would be extremely high. 2. Global energy crisis. Any significant conflict in the Persian Gulf region would inevitably disrupt global oil and gas supplies. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for a significant portion of the world's oil, could be threatened, sending energy prices skyrocketing and triggering a global economic crisis. 3. Nuclear proliferation concerns. If Iran perceives that its conventional deterrents have failed and its nuclear program is under existential threat, it might be more determined than ever to acquire nuclear weapons. This would dramatically increase proliferation risks in an already volatile region, potentially prompting other regional powers to consider their own nuclear programs. 4. U.S. role and engagement. The U.S. would face immense pressure to actively mediate and de-escalate, while simultaneously reassuring its allies. Its military presence in the region might need to be bolstered, increasing the risk of American forces being drawn into direct conflict. 5. Shifting alliances. The attack could solidify existing alliances and forge new ones. Russia and China might strengthen their ties with Iran, while Israel might find even stronger backing from Western powers. The dynamics within the Arab world would also shift, with some states drawing closer to Israel in shared opposition to Iran, while others would be forced to condemn Israel more strongly under public pressure. 6. Humanitarian crisis. A large-scale conflict would undoubtedly lead to a severe humanitarian crisis, displacing millions, creating refugee flows, and causing widespread suffering. Operation Rising Lion. Whether a one-off shock-and-awe campaign or the opening salvo of a prolonged war, marks a chilling new chapter in the Middle East. It underscores the profound existential fears that drive strategic decisions in the region and the lengths to which nations are willing to go to protect what they perceive as their vital interests. The coming days will be critical as the world holds its breath, hoping that restraint and diplomacy can somehow prevail over the raw emotions of vengeance and the grim realities of military might. The future of the Middle East, and perhaps the global economy, hangs precariously in the balance.